Hello, fans of Western North Carolina athletics and other things fun. This is Pat Pohl, and it's another iteration of Behind the Beard WNC. And the format of this podcast, in case you're new, it's four guys that are relatively good friends getting together to banter about whatever really floats our boat. A lot of times, though, it's high school sports, but it really can be about anything. And the intent behind it, it's our entertainment. We hope you're entertained too, but if you're not, we understand if you got to go find something else to listen to. What an exciting week. I'm so glad we're getting around the table together. It's Labor Day, gentlemen, and I have to tell you, I was just out at the Rockets practice at AC Reynolds High School, and they're laboring on Labor Day, and they look good.
Guess what? Pat was late.
No, I was not. We were talking about a specific time to start this evening, and I was here amply early.
So what does it mean? What did you say? How did you describe our friendship?
Relatively.
What does relatively good friends mean?
Well, you know, we get along sometimes, but a lot of times I just, feel a little icky when I'm around you guys for too long.
How's the helipad and Olympic swimming pool coming?
Yeah, well, they haven't even been drawn up yet, so no, we don't.
Which did you take to the game at East Forsyth? Did you take the helicopter or the plane?
The Subaru Forester.
So Pat's already plugged in that Reynolds was practicing today. But
Yes, on Labor Day.
on Labor Day.
Christ School went to school today
So, wow.
Wow, that's
Really?
impressive.
and practiced
That is-
afterwards.
That is okay. I'm not sure what anybody else did. I'm sure Inca took the day off, but they need to get rested up.
Well, they have a bye week this week.
Yeah, I'm sure they took the day off.
Well, good for them. Lewis, share with us.
Owen did practice this morning.
This morning.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
9 o'clock practice.
Well, that's good. That's good.
Good. I do think practicing during your season is probably something that's like we can all agree is good. So
What about practicing out of your season? Because on Tuesday nights we have a men's retreat, and Carson says he can't come because he has to coach baseball.
What?
It's fall.
It
It's summer.
it
What
is
are we
fall,
doing?
But as we talked about, we've got to practice these boys as much as we can.
You trying to catch up to TC?
Yeah,
They got
yeah,
a few
that's-
years on you.
They've got many years on us, but we're still giving it our best shot.
So, Carson, this come up in conversation this week, and I'm just wondering,
Okay.
as a young child, were you like abandoned in traffic or something? Because every episode you've talked about traffic and how hard it's going to
Shout
be to
out
get
Dwight.
somewhere.
Is our guy Dwight commenting on our social media?
I'm not going to say
So
who.
with-
but I'm just. Were you left in traffic or something, and they
No,
come back
so
and got
traffic. I know. Let's go ahead and get to it. I mean, Weaverville. I live in North Asheville, in between Weaverville and downtown.
I got his address if anybody needs
Mike does have the address.
you? Have you
and-
ever called it Weaver Vegas?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
often.
Okay.
But if you guys obviously have not been on that side of town since the football season started, because some people are saying it's school traffic. No, it's North Buncombe football traffic, and so traffic right now everywhere is bad. But
Is that because they're burning down Main Street or what?
burning down, it's buzzing, all of the above.
Okay.
Yep. So I actually had to park.
You went to the North Buncombe game, right?
I did. I went to North Buncombe Madison game this past Friday night. I had to park one exit down, and you just walked up the interstate and then got to the field. So,
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was actually wild.
That can't be
off the
true.
chain.
Can't be.
That can't be true.
Have you ever been to the Battle of the Jug?
No.
Okay, so
Did you find out what was in the jug?
I don't know. I think Madison was able, since they've had the Jug for many years. I think they had something special that they were brewing in their backwoods. But I'm excited to see what the good old boys of Weaver Vegas put in it. And that'll be a treat.
So can I share with you the last time, and we'll get to this a little bit later. North Buncombe was 3-0. Was the 2019 season when they beat Patton, Madison, and Avery. I thought it had been a lot longer than that.
No, I think they were competent in 2019. Does that sound right? What was the record?
7-5.
7-5. Of
course, winning season.
That's a winning season.
They beat Robertson.
They beat Robertson. I think that means it was a fantastic season.
They lost to Reynolds 54-6, and they lost to Asheville 41-38. They almost beat Asheville High.
Oh, wow.
Reynolds score does not surprise me. The Asheville score surprises
Is that
me.
back when they had Joe
They had Joe Jones.
Joe
yes.
Jones? That's
Yep,
his name.
whose little brother plays for Asheville. So I'm just
Is it amazing?
It's-
Is it amazing how kids just move around to school, but man, there's no recruiting.
No,
I would
definitely
never allow my parents to do that.
No,
Absolutely
definitely
not.
no recruiting. I'm not gonna be a part of it. I will say so. Whitney's dad does
Wait,
the
who's
chains.
Whitney?
Whitney is my better half, and her dad does the chains for North Buncombe, and he had the Irwin and North Buncombe JVs, and big matchup, I believe. And so he said that on the Irwin sideline, the only thing that was discussed was that their best player went to Reynolds. He said that every coach discussed it for 4 quarters. So I know that that's hot and heavy on the Irwin. It's a hot topic in Leicester, it seems like.
I mean, with the score 34-14, they probably should have been talking more about other stuff other than that.
Yeah, well, I don't think this was not during the Brevard-Irwin game, but
okay.
this was during a clash. For some reason, I think it's because of the JV matchups with Madison in those conferences. So Reynolds,
The 7-8-9 deal.
7-8-9 deal. So North Buncombe and Irwin already scheduled a JV matchup this year. I don't know what the
So they
score-
have a double hitter.
I'm not sure. I don't know how many times they're playing. I don't dive in. I've learned a lot about football. I'm basically a football expert at this point, and but I am not an expert on JV football. So,
So if there's anything you master in life, it's now football and traffic.
football and traffic, yeah,
Okay, cool.
absolutely.
And fishing. Yeah.
He's a good fisherman?
He's a masturbator.
Oh.
So wow, that is all right. You got me.
We've gone to a new level.
He got me. He got me.
yeah.
I'm guessing that'll be deleted.
So I hope not. Mike, what do you have for us this week?
So I got a couple things for you guys. Last week I had several complaints in the old soapbox. So I just want to revisit a couple of those.
I'm shocked.
The first thing we talked about was referees and how bad they were, right? So they were 100% better this week, 100% better. But I want to share with you just a little bit of what we're dealing with as coaches and parents. The referee spots the ball, picks up the other ball. He's going toward the sideline, and the white hat throws a flag for delay a game. How are we supposed to snap the ball when the referee has the other ball still in his hand? That's the kind of craziness we're dealing with right now. But I want to say referees 100% better this week. No referees got trucked by running backs or wide receivers. They were pretty good this week. Now, I realize it's still the leftovers, but they were pretty good. Arthritis did not kick in this week. I did not fall at the tailgate. In
That's
fact,
fantastic news.
I was
That is awesome, Mike.
I was upright the whole time.
Wow.
That's a big step forward for you. Good.
The heat was certainly not as bad this week at the
That's
racetrack, and we got a win, so that was fantastic.
Awesome.
And then the last thing I talked about was visiting fans. While they still sat on our side, you guys may find this surprising, but I had the strength coach sitting behind me and a teacher sitting to my right. I don't know why they sat around me.
You think you were singled out?
Maybe. And I sit right next to so we had some visiting fans on our side this week. They're much better behaved.
Where'd they come from?
Tampa,
Oh, not New Jersey.
not
right?
New
No,
Jersey.
not New Jersey.
There's a little difference between Tampa and New Jersey, just saying. Not a lot, but some. So those were all good. I do want to mention a couple things this week. Of course, Pat was late. We
I
would have
was
started
not
a lot
late.
early.
How was I
certain
late?
You were the last
Were
one
you
here.
the last one
I
here?
was the last one here, but you all changed the time an hour and a half earlier than what we were planning on
Carson
meeting.
went to the zoo and made it back in time. He saw all his relatives and everything.
Well, good for Carson.
Paxton was very happy.
Now, wait a minute here. I'm going to interject because I think all of you busted my chops about choosing to do the live stream play-by-play during my my son's senior year, and how I should not be doing that broadcast and be watching him in the stands. And now you're wanting me to sacrifice watching him at his practice to come here and talk to you bloviating bags of hot air.
We're talking about practice.
You will learn more at this table than
Practice?
you will at practice.
Absolutely.
I will tell you that right now.
That's not true.
That is true.
It isn't.
So I want to share, just because you're driving in the left lane, it doesn't mean you're going fast. People in the left lane driving the speed limit or 5 over, get out of the way. Get out of the way.
I agree completely. It makes my
Pat-
blood shoot out
Platt.
of my eyes.
Pat, you're definitely a 55 guy. You
No.
drive 55 at the speed limit's 50. Am
Pat,
I wrong,
how many
guys?
speeding tickets do you have, sir?
I received one speeding ticket in Warren County,
In
Indiana
50
on
years.
February 15th of 1989.
The fact that he can remember that, so
I've had
sad.
so many I
That's
can't
great.
even remember.
Pat's a very good, Pat. Okay.
So next up, Deion Sanders. He told
Oh.
you he was going to
Yeah.
win.
He did.
He
sure
told
did.
you he was going to win.
He called his shot.
Wow.
And then afterwards, he said, "I told you I
so.
was
He-
going to win."
He kept all of the receipts.
all the and not the paper ones you put in your pocket either.
But can we say that maybe he's running the most classic case of elevated daddy ball ever?
I mean, his kid did throw for like 500
500
yards and 5
yards
touchdowns.
and 5 touchdowns. I would say that his son would play quarterback at a lot of schools in the country.
Absolutely, but I mean, do you think he has the 5'10" because he called pass 79% of the time?
All I know is they beat the team that was in the not the state championship, the national championship
Yeah.
last year.
One of the top 4 teams.
They were 20.5-point underdogs. I can't take anything away from them. That
was fantastic.
That was fantastic.
And then lastly, stat guys, or whoever put your Max Prep stats in. I'm looking at the stats this morning, getting ready for today, and most of them are still at 2 games. You've played 3, but you've only put 2 games worth of stats in. I will give it to AC Reynolds.
They did.
They
yeah.
not only caught up this week, they've already got all 3 games.
Let's
in there.
go.
Pat.
Let's go. Pat, have you been making some moves over there?
I have done absolutely nothing
Okay.
to contribute to that.
So
I
I
think
want to.
they've been listening.
I want to share you. I want to share a little something that happened Friday night. So Pat rolled into East Forsyth. He walked in. Of course, he was 5 minutes late. They'd already kicked off.
This is not true.
The crowd literally stood up and cheered for Pat. W Pat.
That's-
W Pat. W Pat. W Pat. That's all he heard as he walked into the stadium.
Oh,
And then they got the L.
yeah, they could have gotten the W though for sure.
We'll get to that in a minute. But I
That's
don't know
all. That's all we read on our Instagram.
if you're not on our Instagram, you should be, because I think 73 Reynolds players commented that Pat got the W by picking Reynolds over East Forsyth.
And I just want to know where the love was when I picked Reynolds week 1, because I did pick Reynolds week 1.
I also picked
and
Reynolds
Mike
week
picked
1.
Reynolds week 1, and there was no W Carsons. There was no. It was just a big L.
It was
I caught a big L, but it's okay. I do see some more Reynolds picks for me in my future.
who was the only one that picked week 1 right?
It might have been Lewis.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Hey, guess what, guys? I finished second this week. How about that?
I did notice when you sent the standings, the results from this week. I did notice that Mike. I think our guy Mike might get going here. I think he's going to get hot.
So Landon Jones went 8-2. I'm sorry, I mean Carson Jones went 8-2. Landon, his brother, does all his picks, but that's okay. He's 20-7 overall.
Okay.
Pat went 6-4 this week, 18-9. Lewis went 6-4. He's 16-11 overall, and I went 7-3. I'm still in last. I'm 15-12 overall. So,
I think we're all in the positive. We're all over 500.
yep.
Pat's respectable. You know, I think Lewis is.
I would argue that Pat's not respectable.
I
I'm
think Pat's
incredibly respectable.
results have been respectable.
Right?
I think Pat's the most respectable guy I know.
It's true. There's something to be said for following rules.
no.
I hate it, but yeah, I guess. So let's recap last week. We got a couple games to go over.
All right, let's
So
do this.
we're going to start with Inca and Rosman. Inca 28, Rosman 14. Inca now 2-1. Rosman 0-3. Rosman has not won in their last 36 ball games.
Ouch.
We all got this one right.
Who was the last one they beat? Do you know?
You know, I know. I'll be honest with you. I didn't look. Probably Owen, but I'm not sure.
Oh, this not Owen. This not Owen.
Oh, wow.
I'm not sure.
Trying to keep the
no.
gloves up.
Carson did not say that. That was Mike.
So Carson, any news out of Inca this week?
Yes, so it looks to be that they've moved away from the spread and just went some smash mouth, I formation. We're just gonna run it right down your throat.
Why would they do that?
I've got some good sources over there. It appears that the head ball coach does not feel like they can be successful and win many more games by throwing the football. So I guess he thinks that running will be a strength. When I look at 28-14 against Rossman, I don't really look at that as a
that's only 2 touchdowns.
Rosman
hasn't won at 36 games.
If there would have been a spread on this game, Rosman would have covered.
Absolutely.
So But I will say, Lewis, what you got?
Looking it up, Rosman beat Madison last time.
I probably should have guessed that.
I hate
Madison.
2019,
I hate that for-
2020.
I hate that for the Madison Patriots.
They won
not a
40,
surprise.
40 to 12.
oh boy.
What year was that?
1920.
19. That's the year
Wow.
Pat was born.
2019,
Oh,
2020.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But take away from this one, I think if you're Inca, let's go ahead, let's screenshot the 2-1 record. I think unfortunately there's not going to be a ton of opportunities, moving forward. But hopefully they get their guys, rowing in the right direction. I do know when you have some change in whole offensive philosophies after 2 weeks when you're 1-1. That's probably throw some kids for a loop, but
Maybe so. They got a week off this week. They have a bye this week. Maybe they can figure it out and get rolling for the next week.
there we go.
So next up is Brevard and Irwin. Guess what? Pat's a hell of a salesman because he convinced me Irwin was good. They lost to Brevard, who's now 1-2. 34-14. Irwin now 1-2. None of us got this one right. We all picked Irwin like a bunch of idiots.
Yeah, we all got snickered by him. I mean,
I'm blaming Pat.
I was talking to someone on the sideline, and he was just like, listen, you got one guy going boom, one going whack, and one guy not getting in the end zone. I really think it just encapsulated what was happening at that game.
I agree with you.
And I think this is a prime takeaway when you look at the records. I think Citizen Times had a good little write up on Brevard. They lost to Pisgah, who I think will be a strong team for the Mountains. And then they also lost to a big, I think it was a big school out of Tennessee. So they were 0-2. Irwin got that big win week 1. There was a lot of buzz on social media.
I guess Daniel Boone sucks.
Daniel Boone, I think that's the big takeaway here, is Daniel Boone just...
And he's, if you guys don't know,
First to worst.
he's dead.
Daniel Boone's not alive.
Daniel Boone's dead.
He's not alive.
I mean, they won a state championship last year.
Well, like maybe like North Henderson, they had 28 seniors.
But
Yeah, right?
But Pat had me sold. I was drinking the Kool-Aid.
No longer.
My eyes are clear. No longer, because we all picked them last time, and I will give Mike credit. The next day Mike was like, guys, I think Brevard. I think Brevard's the pick here. And
Brevard was the best 0-2 team out there.
I agree. So we Irwin, you got us, but my
anymore.
my goggles are off. Pat, don't even try and put them back on me, okay?
W. Pat.
I will say this. I went back and watched a little bit of the game, on the huddle.
Sure.
Take a look. Irwin was in the lead in that game. They were out to a 14-0 lead.
34-14 was
Yep.
the final.
And then the difference I saw, I don't know if you guys noticed this.
Go ahead.
But Brevard has a pretty big front, and they're pretty athletic.
Yeah.
And you could see that as the game went on, that became a big factor because Irwin was able to come out and strike pretty quick. But then over the course of the game, the wearing down of the line of Irwin was apparent, and they couldn't do anything more on offense, obviously, with it. And then they had those two tall receivers for Brevard, and they just threw the ball over the top of the secondary.
And Irwin doesn't have that tall receiver, so that probably
Where did he go?
He went to AC Reynolds.
Oh, okay.
AC
Oh,
Reynolds.
how did he get
Okay.
there? Did he move?
I believe I'm not.
I
I don't know.
He almost said, "I believe."
I'm not sure.
I honestly have no idea. I mean, I'm assuming you did.
No,
Maybe so.
That's
Maybe
okay. That's okay. But anyways, Brevard will be a team to keep your eye on.
I think so too.
The next game we got, we had Tuscola and McDowell. Mike.
We all got this one right. Tuscola 2-1 now. They lost to Asheville 44-22 over McDowell. McDowell 0-3. We all got it right. I'm just not sure McDowell has much right now. They lost their running back to Asheville. So McDowell's going to have a tough year. Tuscola, of course, has Jed West and new coach, former NFL quarterback. What's his name?
Jonathan Crompton,
Right, that's what I said. Jonathan Crompton.
Tennessee Vol, baby.
Played for Tennessee. Not a surprise here. Tuscola beats McDowell by 20. So next up, we had Christ Church at Asheville School. Landon evidently did his homework and got this one right.
Well, I
was
mean,
a tight game,
if I
though.
remember correctly, Carson said, "Don't bet against Christ."
I just said I was on Christ's side.
So Christ Church wins
if
27.
if I'm going to go down with anybody, it's going to be Christ. So
Wow.
So Christ Church wins 27-26. Christ Church now 2-1. Asheville School 0-2. Private schools in Asheville not doing so great. I have a few stats from that game. The Asheville School quarterback Ricky Tolbert, 21 of 31 for 300 yards, 2 TDs, and an interception. Asheville School had 80 yards rushing. They lost 2 fumbles, 2 sacks, no interceptions. Tobe was their leading receiver from Reynolds, 9 catches, 179 yards. But unfortunately, Christ Church takes them down 27-26. Carson, how did you know that Asheville School was going to lose?
I really wanted to pick up a game on you guys, and I saw that one as the best possibility.
Should have been one of our games of the week, evidently. 27-26.
It should have been. I don't know much about Christ Church, but the name, to be honest, really sold me.
That's a great way to. It sounds like we're at a horse race. I like the name of that one. He's going to win.
So next up, TC 35, Smoky Mountain 7. We all got this one right. TC 2-1, Smoky Mountain now 1-2. TC,
They might be legit.
TC's looking like the second place team to Reynolds.
I've been saying that since the
Yes,
beginning.
Listen, but you also said Irwin was good, and I'm not buying anything you're selling at this moment.
Except that you just said that TC might be the second place team. I've been selling that
They
the whole
might
way.
be.
They might be the number 1 team.
No, I don't think so.
TC is doing what they're supposed to do. We said if they hung with Watauga week 1 that they were going to be
1 point game.
They were going to be competent. It was 1 point game, so that checked my box. Hang in with them. Watauga, great program. TC's beat 2 bad schools handily. So
Avery and
East Rutherford last week,
and
then this week with Smoky Mountain.
So
I think Robertson. I think they got some good things going on over there. It does look like all roads are leading. We'll get to Reynolds later, but it looks like there's going to be TC is going to have a say, and they're going to have some confidence because they didn't schedule quite like the other schools. We'll talk about some strength of schedules here later, but
I think you guys will be surprised when we talked about strength of schedule. So next up, we had our games of the week. Carson picked Madison at North Buncombe for his game of the week. North Buncombe 27-6 over Madison. Madison now 0-3. North Buncombe 3-0, like we mentioned earlier, for the first time in quite a while. Carson, what'd you see over there?
I already mentioned traffic, so I won't mention traffic again, but there was a great turnout for the game. I was very surprised with how many.
So was it packed?
It was packed. There was nowhere to sit on the North Buncombe side. Madison had a good little turnout, but it's obviously the way bleachers aren't as big as the home bleachers, but you had to park very far away, walk to the gate. We did stand in line for about 20 minutes, 30 minutes waiting for tickets. I would like to, if North Buncombe's going to remain decent and people are going to continue to go to games, I think we should have a better system for tickets because I should have added this to Mike's soapbox.
Did you use the GoFan app?
We did not, and we should have because they said if you bought tickets online,
you can walk right. You can still do it while you're standing in line for 20 minutes.
I did, but I really wanted the full experience, and I'll just hand up. I wanted the full experience, but
I remember the GoFan days when we had to buy them GoFan.
As far as the actual playing of the game, it was really just 2 teams that played similar style of football, and as
a lot of passing, spread offense.
No, I don't think there was a pass completed the first half by either team, but North Buncombe ran the ball at will.
Wait, who's Will?
Will, the crisis will. So,
wow.
But North Buncombe moved the ball. Madison actually moved the ball way, way better than what the score, predicted or what the score ended up being with 6 points. But they had a lot of penalties. I want to say the first quarter, North Buncombe had the ball once. Madison had the ball twice in the whole first quarter. Yeah, so
wow. Exciting.
So like I said, it was just the clock did not stop the entire
Were you out of
first
there
half.
by 8:30?
It was very, very, very quick game. But North Buncombe, there was a turning point. They've got a good little running back. I think it's Hayden Burnett. He's averaging. Going into that game, he was averaging 150, 160 yards a game, and he broke one for 99 yards. So I don't think his average went down this game. But then Alex Rash, also a running threat quarterback. But what Lewis said about their line, they they just physically
They're big.
They're
dude.
big, and they seem like they move the ball well. Like their first play of the game was a QB sneak.
That they move as a unit.
So it was like if any listeners have watched the Eagles where Jalen Hurts and they like, whenever they need a few yards, they just QB sneak it. I mean, the first game,
Well, Kelsey's the best lineman around.
We could
He
put
is.
you behind them and just say, listen, follow them until they get resistant and then fall down.
yeah,
And you would
I
win
would
a
agree.
game.
I don't
Have you
know
not
about
seen the
that.
giant scar on his knee?
I was gonna say I would get hurt, but I
made
do
of
think
glass.
what Pat said earlier about Brevard's line looking like they might have wore Irwin down. I don't think they play Brevard this upcoming week. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I think there's going to be other games on the schedule that North Buncombe will be able to compete in, and I think that's a humongous win for all of Weaverville and all of North Buncombe. When we talk about their past a lot, they had a good year in 2019, but they usually after week 3, there's not many games that they've ever been able to like say, hey, we have a chance to compete in. So I think good things going on over there. Lot of positive energy is what I felt.
So do they compete with Reynolds for the 3A crown?
No, that's going to come crashing down is that week 4?
It's coming up soon.
Week 5. No, is there
It's
3?
not this Friday, but next
Yeah,
Friday.
so week 5. So that will be a game that we will probably need to put a 40-point spread on.
Are there any storefronts left in Weaverville?
If you saw Main Street, right now the business has never been better. Talk about picking up a community, and in tough times and stuff with inflation and everything. I mean, right now it's just really, really good things happening.
What was that one picture you sent out on Instagram talking about royalty?
The coaches.
The coaching staff?
Yeah.
Oh, my favorite part was it said Shane Hawkins line. I mean, he's got the line covered.
Yeah.
The line. I mean, defense, offense, he is the line. So
And Hightower has the kicking covered. He
Yeah.
kicked at Tennessee.
he
UT.
did. He did. So I think they've got Jeremy Lassiter all time. He holds every record for. I think he played at the Air Force Academy, but he holds every record at North Buncombe. I think for everything in football, and he's on the sideline with his hat backwards. They've
Sounds like Kenny Ford.
like I said, their energy's good over there. But it's certainly early. But 3-0. I'm not going to apologize for being 3-0.
So I had my game of the week was Lake Norman at Asheville, and like morons, we all picked Asheville. If you're east of Asheville, you're probably going to beat the Mountains. And Lake Norman came to town and beat Asheville 34-7. Lake Norman now 3-0, Asheville 1-2. I think Asheville's got some serious questions on offense. Are they going to be able to compete with some of the other teams in the MAC? I'm just not sure they are. And running back had another decent game, Josh Ellis, who transferred from McDowell. It's just going to be interesting to see come conference time, which is coming. Are they going to be able to compete with Reynolds and TC? I think Asheville TC is going to be a heck of a game.
With a record of 1-2, you're asking if they can compete, right? I've read somewhere that iron strengthens iron, right?
I have heard that as well. I think it's in the Bible.
So, what's Reynolds' record right now?
1-2.
Oh, so why could they not compete? I mean, they're facing good quality teams as well.
It's true.
They're getting their team ready.
It's true.
Why could they not compete, Mike?
Well, basically the score of 34-7, where Reynolds played one of the best teams in 4A and lost by 6.
Yeah.
That tells me that Asheville may not be ready to compete this year. Looking at the message board, there's a lot of complaints from the Asheville fans. I think they were expecting a little more this year. Tougher schedule. They got a returning quarterback. They got a returning running backs and receivers, and they're just right now not able to compete.
I think the question for me is, Mike mentioned this. It might have been last week or the week before, but if you play this tough schedule, it's good if you make it out healthy and you make it out with some like positive energy in your team. So, and I'm not in their
if
locker
you got
room.
the dogs to compete, then it's good.
It's good.
All right.
But with them, it would be my only concern is, are they getting down? They don't have right now. They're not having a ton of confidence. I would say even after week 1 off Tuscola, they're not having a ton of confidence. But there's guys. Let's not forget they're going to play North Buncombe. They're going to play the Incas. There's going to be games in there that's going to be built in for confidence. And then we know how rivalry games go. In an Asheville Reynolds game, I mean, I still think it's a rivalry game. I mean, if right now, this past week, I mean, Reynolds checked an enormous box off. I mean, they, like Mike just said, one of the best teams in the state, and they just played with them, had a chance to win. So right now, their Reynolds is still at the top, and
If you listen to Pat, they actually won.
but they did not, right?
Well, we're not to that game yet. Okay. I would say with these losses, they're only getting better.
I agree.
They're
If
getting-
they're
it-
staying together as a team.
Hey, are they getting better, or are they getting, are they losing confidence?
No, I don't think that with these teams, it only takes one play. One play can change a season for a lot of these teams. They get that spark.
Agreed.
Well, they're going to have a get right game, and I still think I'm not bailing on that. Asheville by the end of the season will be a very good team around this area.
I'm still confident in number one Asheville Mac at the end of the year.
We'll see.
Yeah,
So I just figured out why Lewis was looking at me funny. I did skip the Carrollwood Day at Christ School game. Carrollwood Day now 1-0 after a 38-14 win over 0-3 Christ School. We all got this one right.
The Jersey boys came down and played a little ball.
Well, that was last week. We played Tampa this week.
Oh, you had Tampa this week. That's right. It wasn't the Jersey.
they came up.
They
came
came
up.
up. So, not to sound,
Yeah, I whiffed that one.
not to sound like
It's all
Pat, but 2 pick sixes and a block punt for a TD, and we're in this game. Christ School's in this game. They had some fight in them, which I'm glad. They've had a tough start, but they had some fight in this game. They stayed with it. Offensive line played a whole lot better this week. Unfortunately for Christ School, quarterback 5 of 15 for 59 yards, a TD, and 2 interceptions.
Ouch.
That's not good. We had 119 yards rushing. The defense has only had 1 turnover in 3 games. So if you're not turning teams over, it's real hard to win. So in my opinion, we got another tough one this week and next week and the next week and the next week. But hopefully, like Lewis said, this is getting us ready for the 3 games we can win. So we'll see. A tough game. Real tough game. But anyway, I'm sorry I skipped that one. So next up we had Lewis. He picked Owen North Henderson as his game of the week. Carson, Pat, and Mike got this one right. North Buncombe 44, 0-7. Not a close game at all. North Henderson now 3-0, 0-3. Just like Pat, you had me convinced Owen was going to go like 7-3 this year. Currently 0-3.
Tough start. I mean, I think the season is not gone as they expected it had for us to as well. You know,
Same for us.
exactly. Someone close to the organization said, you know, it's like you're starting every game, you're having really high expectation for the game, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, and there it goes, right?
How many seniors does North Henderson have?
I believe the number was 28.
Even for a program like North Henderson, that's big.
That's big. I
That-
mean,
yeah.
they didn't have much. I mean, that's most of their team. I think they probably had 40 kids on the sideline, 28 being seniors. Next year, probably not looking real good for them. But they did show out in the Valley this week. 2 plays in, they scored a touchdown, and it just kept going after that. So, I mean, they won every side of the ball that they possibly could.
Offense, defense, and special teams, I assume you're talking about?
100%. Every aspect of the game, they dominated, and Owen just didn't show up to play that day.
That's tough. I know we had some high expectations for Owen after meeting with
Coach Gibson?
Coach Gibson. Super great guy. Mm-hmm. I think he's going to get it turned around.
I do too.
May
It
not
just
be this
doesn't
year.
happen. I mean, it does not happen overnight. And
Sure.
North
Well-
Buncombe went 2 years without a win before
18 straight losses before 3 wins.
before 3 wins.
I will say a quote coming out of the Valley. This year is a highlight of the failures of the middle school and youth league for the past few years, and we've seen that.
So, Lewis, you know this. For years, they didn't even have a middle school team. They were telling them to go play youth league. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah, it was a 2 or 3 years they didn't have a middle school, and the youth league. I mean, really not ran that great. I mean, if we're being honest, that's what it is. We really need some structure there. We need to start developing some players early on, so they get them ready for these high competition games in high school.
So, I know this is a big surprise. So, Pat had the Reynolds game as his game of the week.
Shocker.
Reynolds now 1-2. East Forsyth 3-0 after a 27-21 win by East Forsyth. Carson, Lewis, and Mike got this right. Of course, Pat not allowed to pick anyone but Reynolds. What'd you see at the game?
I'm a believer in Reynolds. Thank you very much. That's why I picked them. So, gentlemen, this was an amazing thing to see. East Forsyth ranked 6th in the state overall coming into this game. Everybody believed this game was going to be over in a running clock by the halftime. And let me tell you something. It should have been the way this one went out in the first quarter.
What was the score like 7 minutes in?
It was 21-0. So here's how this was. The way I saw this game, you guys have all seen all the Rocky movies, right? Mm-hmm. So, in Rocky 3, Mr. T, Clubber Lang, comes out and just bloodies Rocky forever and ever. And then all of a sudden there's just this one shot that starts turning things around. That's exactly what this game looked like, was a Rocky movie. Reynolds was done for dinner. I mean, both sides of the ball, it was over. That quarterback is a UNC commit for East Forsyth. Baker, I think is his name. First play of the game, 70-yard TD strike off the left side, gone. And then defense comes out, causes a safety. Reynolds is down, a safety and a touchdown right out of the gate. And then they come back on offense again, chuck it deep again on the other side of the field, goes all the way down to the 5-yard line before it's tackled, and then they run it in again. And then next thing you know, you're looking up, it's 21-0, right?
Pat takes it as he was not having a good feeling at 21-0.
No, it was brutal. It was absolutely it was horrific. But then, like I said, they came back. They got the interception. This is a team that they faced that had running clocks victories against the two teams they faced in Raleigh prior, right?
Right.
And that's the way this was looking it was going to go. And then Reynolds came back and got an interception, and they turned it in. They've actually got it on the board with a touchdown before the end of the first half. So they go into the locker room down 21-7. You're still thinking they're going to, feel the wrath of this team when they come out at halftime. But Reynolds came back, and they allowed one touchdown on the initial drive, I think, of the second half. The extra point wasn't any good, so it was 27-7 at that point. And then Reynolds, another touchdown each time. And there was an instance, I believe it was at the end of the second quarter, when Reynolds was in the red zone, I think the 12 or the 15-yard line, whatnot. Obviously, Coach Laws decided to go for it. And Hayden Craig had Ty Johnson wide open in the end zone, and Hayden's pass just sailed right off of the fingertips of Ty Johnson. If he catches that ball and they kick the extra point, Reynolds is the winner by 1 in this one. So amazing story to see that. And I will tell you this, after what I saw happen against Shelby, where they didn't have anything going on in the entire first half, and then they came back and turned it around in the second half, that story played out, except it was the first quarter, and then it started in the second quarter, Reynolds turned around. I would not pick against this Reynolds team the rest of the season based on what I saw in that last 3 quarters.
No, I mean, I wouldn't pick against them against North Buncombe either. I mean,
well, I wouldn't put it against TC, against Asheville, against Watauga, against any of them. Bring them all comers. I think Reynolds wins this.
I do have a couple stats from the game. Reynolds 16 of 23, 195 yards and 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. 55 yards rushing, so running the ball seemed to be a little bit of a struggle. No sacks. 2 interceptions for East Forsyth on Reynolds. Both were pick 6. Is that correct?
Both the interceptions for
East Forsyth?
Yeah. Did they run it back? I don't remember if they were both pick 6s. I couldn't tell you that.
I may have misread that. East Forsyth quarterback 16 of 24, 287 yards, 3 TDs, and 2 interceptions. 155 yards rushing for East Forsyth, and East Forsyth had 4 sacks on the Rockets.
I mean, it is a testament to the coaching staff to make the adjustments to stop them the way they did. They got a little shell-shocked in the beginning, but they did fight back. That does bode well for the rest of the season.
It does, and I agree with Pat. I think that with the Vegas lines on paper, I think Reynolds will be the favorite in every game that they play for the rest of the season until the playoffs.
I think so too.
But I'm going to give credit to him. If anybody could have been in our group message Friday at 7. At 7, was it a 7 o'clock start time?
It was
7 o'clock. So I want to say
got there by 7:15.
Was it 7:20 or 7:25 where Pat was like, guys,
21-0.
This could not be
catastrophe.
This was a
I used the word
catastrophe.
catastrophe.
I mean, he used the word catastrophe. And I was sitting there. I'm like, well, I'm at halftime already, and Pat, but Pat believed, and he was right. They came out and somehow the Reynolds magic lives on, and until we are proven that they don't have it anymore, Reynolds football will still be Reynolds football.
Now,
But-
go ahead.
I would say to everyone that said Pat W.
Pat with the L.
Yeah. Well, Pat won't be getting any more L's the rest of this way, I'm here to tell you. Something else I'll bring up. I heard from several people that the team really grew up that game. So the questions that you have on people knowing their assignments, making silly mistakes with that, or the offensive line or the defensive line, whatever the case may be, they all matured and grew up during that specific game, and it was a gut check. And I think I heard from people that I guess there were announcers on their live stream broadcast that were broadcasting out, and they were saying that in the second half that the Reynolds offensive line was opening massive holes with which to run through, and you could see that playing out in the second half. Patterson was able to get a lot of great yards up both sides of the ball, even up the middle, much more so than he was in that first quarter, because there was nothing happening in that first quarter.
So you're saying any opponent here on out is a joke?
Is a loser to AC Reynolds High School without fail.
I love it.
I really hope Watauga is listening to that.
Listen up, Watauga,
We will
and pack a lunch
we'll
because
make sure.
Reynolds is going to eat it.
I will send this to Watauga. I will send this to someone inside of Watauga's program.
So
Don't bet against him. I'm going to tell all three of you.
I'm not.
Do not bet against Reynolds the rest of the way.
did you know that
will
when
eat crow.
Pat walked into the stadium, he got a standing ovation?
I did not get a standing ovation
He
when
did.
I walked in the
Pat's the
stadium.
hero of AC Reynolds.
Pat is the hero, but no, Pat, I will say, with them saying that Lewis is super confident that Asheville iron sharpens iron and stuff. I will say for a start that could have been very, very difficult for Reynolds after that week one. I do think best case scenario, them being at 1-2, this is the best possible way they could feel. I mean, East Forsyth is no joke program, legit program. The quarterback could end up being a 5-star when it's all said and done. So kudos to them, but we'll keep an eye on them, Pat.
Indeed. And
So
watch.
so while we're talking about the tough schedule, let's talk a little bit about the strength of schedule so far in the 2023 season. Pat's favorite team, Chambers, has the toughest schedule. I know you're a big fan of Chambers.
Oh, I can tell you how much of a fan I am of that program.
They have the number one toughest schedule in the state of North Carolina, and this does change weekly. Christ School's at number 6, Asheville School's at 14, Asheville High School's at 32, Reynolds is at 46. So we talk about the Reynolds Gauntlet. It's only the third hardest schedule in the county. Tuscola's at 149, so over 100-point drop-off to the next team. 166 for Irwin, 169 for TC, 273 for Inca, 314 for Owen, 369 for North Buncombe, and this is out of 407 teams.
Nice.
So North Buncombe's 3-0. They played the 369th toughest schedule in the state of North Carolina.
Any big surprises there? I mean,
I'm surprised that Reynolds has the fourth toughest schedule in Buncombe County.
I mean, you got two.
I think it's because of Shelby being down and also the West Forsyth not supposed to be great. I think they lost. Did West Forsyth?
They lost this week.
They lost this week.
My question is, why is the private school schedule valued so much higher?
I don't know that either.
Well, they're playing out-of-school teams who are fantastic as opposed county teams probably don't have the budget to travel. Overnight visit, stay in a hotel, and play
they
a
played a
football
team
game.
last week that flew a whole entire team and support staff down. So I think that's probably where the strength of schedule comes from. I mean, their running back that they played last week was the number 37th ranked running back in the entire country going to Pittsburgh. So he was a force just to watch. But I think that I'm not surprised that Reynolds and Asheville are right there neck and neck.
Are you surprised Asheville's in front of Reynolds?
They play Providence Day,
Yeah,
so
you
I mean,
got the Providence
Providence
Day
Day
schedule.
has to weigh some as far as on the rankings go.
Without a doubt.
I watched the
Lake Norman's not bad either. I mean,
No,
they're
no,
undefeated.
Yeah.
I watched the Providence Day Charlotte Catholic game on the TV, and I'll tell you, Charlotte Catholic's a good team. They've been up here to play Reynolds. They beat Reynolds.
Yep.
Providence Day beat them like a drum. I mean, just the athletes they have, it's unreal.
Well-
they're trying to take that program to a national level as opposed to a state level.
That brings on the question, Pat. When is Reynolds going to step up to the plate and start playing in these private schools?
I have no idea.
They did
I've
play-
said that before.
They did
I
play
have
Raven
no
Gap.
idea.
They did. Someone that can't recruit from them.
So, Cane Creek. We talked about Cane Creek football a little bit last week. Lewis, I think you have an update. What you got?
I was told Cane Creek did ended up folding their program.
13 probably not enough to have a team.
Oh, well, they said they got up to 20.
I would think 20 would be enough to have a program.
I agree. I mean, in the Valley several times, 20's been enough. But they are going to be allowed to go to the representative schools. So
So Reynolds or Valley?
Reynolds or Valley, yeah. So those kids are going to get to play football this
Listen,
year.
that's the right decision.
I agree.
To allow them to go to either Reynolds or Valley and play football,
Correct.
I think that's the right thing to do.
Keep those kids engaged. Let them keep going. Help the high schools that they're going to feed to.
Yeah, and if you take them, just like any sport, but football especially, if you take a year, 2 years off of playing something, I mean, it's going to be reflected. We just talked about Owen, not having middle school for all those years, and they're making them pay. I know at the high school level, Robertson or Reynolds does not want to see any dips in the program. I know Reynolds sure doesn't, and Robertson, the momentum they have, I don't think they want to take any steps back to where they lose to. I mean, they lost to North Buncombe 4 years ago.
And it's not like in so in baseball, if you don't have a middle school team, you can play some travel. You can play some different things. Football, there's not really a lot of that. The travel is youth league based, so it's 6th grade and under. With middle school, you're going to need to play some middle school football to be ready for high school football, in my opinion.
Indeed.
I agree.
So the next thing out this week, after some bad information, the right information finally came out. In the United States, football participation is up, guys. Are you surprised?
I'm very surprised
I am
by
too.
that.
So the first time since 2013, football participation is up. In 2018, this is pre-pandemic, there was 1,613,000 kids playing football in the high school area. In 2023, there were 1,028,761 kids playing, so that's a 22,000 uptick from 2018 to 2023. This is the first year there's been an increase. I think we all like to see that.
Absolutely.
And I know there's still some concerns about public school football, but it's good to see that there's more kids participating.
Yeah, you look at the benefits that you get out of playing a sport like football. It almost is unlike any other sport that you have out there, because you obviously have the team component, you have the individual achievement and the responsibility of doing your job, in the aspect of the whole team, and it's not exactly touchy feely. It's a collision sport. I mean, that's how it was put to me when I was growing up. I mean, you have contact sports like lacrosse and soccer
On every play for most kids.
Yeah, it's a collision sport in football.
Unless
So
you're the
it's-
quarterback.
Yeah, that's true. If you're a quarterback, you can play until 82 years old and be just fine, especially in the NFL. So, it's good to see that there's participation there. I think there is a lot more benefit and upside to it than the risk. I think the reward is much higher, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I do think I think there's some local private schools that do this, but I'd like to hear your guys' take as far as what does, we've talked about playing multiple sports, and I think that at not just Christ School, but at most private schools, you're required to do some sort of activity throughout the year. And so, is that right, Mike?
So you're required to do a sport through the entire season. So if you play football, the next sport you can do is weight training. And then for my son, he did track the next season, which is shot put and distance.
So, and my main takeaway to that is being in a public school. I don't work at the school day to day in education, but being there after school for practice, I think participation's down from what we see for us as far as baseball goes. But what I'd like to see out of student athletes is if you're. Do you guys think it's correlated to grades? It's correlated to being well-rounded? I mean, what do you guys think there's benefits to?
Wait, is that a fat joke? Well-rounded?
No fat jokes here.
I really think there's sports that supplement other sports, like wrestling.
Absolutely wrestling.
But I'm not talking about just on the athletic sides of it, because I think anybody would agree that all sports kind of can touch on something different to help athletically. I'm talking about you guys have kids that are in the high school age. Mine's 15 months old. We're working on him just like trying to sleep through the night. I'm asking as far as like grades, as far as like mental health and stuff like that. Do you guys think there's value to being on, being a part of something throughout the year?
I think there's extreme value to playing multiple sports throughout school.
Absolutely.
And I think it prepares you for when you're an adult. And hey, I have to go to work 5 days a week. I have to have
throughout the year.
I have to have a family outside of that.
More like 2 days.
I have to go to different events throughout. You're going to be pressured for time and time commitment throughout the rest of your life.
Yep.
So why not play a sport? You can still handle all the schoolwork. I mean, this makes you a better person when you're going to college, when you're going to be a father, when you're running a family, you're doing everything else. Just go ahead and make this commitment now.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, I think multiple, even Coach Laws, when we interviewed him, he recommended that players play multiple sports to help with the athletic side. But I mean, also, time management. There's a lot of good things that come from multiple sports. Wrestling for linemen is fantastic. Unfortunately, Christ School does not offer wrestling. Track for these athletes is fantastic.
But not only linemen, I mean, DBs, everything else, they can benefit from the endurance they get, the speed. Wrestling provides so many attributes for a football player that they should definitely coincide with each other.
Agreed. I'd say the only challenge that you have with wrestlers, if you're an offensive lineman trying to gain weight, the wrestling season requires a weight loss of significance. And
no, you don't have
unless
to play
you're
it that
wrestling
well.
up.
You don't have to play it that well.
Well, I think we can agree, though. At least there is some pressure to drop weight when you're playing wrestling, trying to wrestle down more so than up. I would argue.
Probably so. I would
Yeah,
say
I would agree with that, Pat.
My son is a freshman, wrestled heavyweight. We weren't going anywhere, so
Yeah.
he was going to be wrestling heavyweight. There was no pressure to lose weight. So let's talk about next week, or this week, I should say. Asheville, Inca, and TC all taking the week off to get ready for the conference play. We're going to start with a couple private school games this week. We have Christ School at Raven Gap. I will share a few stats here.
Go ahead, Mike.
So,
It's okay.
Christ,
You can do it.
Lewis will edit that out. Christ,
There you go.
Christ School 0-3 on the season. Raven Gap 3-0. Raven Gap has scored 90 points and only given up 36. Quarterbacks 52 of 70 for 622 yards, a TD, and 3 interceptions. Running back 35 rushes for 212 yards. He's averaging 6.1 yards a carry and 6 touchdowns on the season through 3 games. Their leading wide receiver, Horn, 18 catches for 220 yards. Christ School 0-3, quarterbacks 29 of 74 for 450 yards, 4 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. 4 of those interceptions were pick sixes. In my opinion, Christ School's got to get Khalil Conley more involved. He's not getting touches. He's not getting catches. He's their best athlete, and they got to get him the football. The other athlete that I think they need to get involved is Newman. He's more of a Julian Edelman kind of kid. He's open a lot. Unfortunately, the quarterback's not seeing him. We got to figure out the quarterback side of this. We have a good defense, a pretty good offensive line with some good size. Unfortunately, we're not able to complete the passes. Running back has an injury this week. Hopefully, he's going to be able to play. But ultimately, I'm going with Raven Gap on this one.
I would agree with Raven Gap on this one. And the only reason for that, if you remember, Mike and Pat, we're up there stocking the concession stand, and we see these guys getting off the bus. And this was their JV team, if you remember at the time.
Yes.
They look like a college offensive and defensive line at the time. They do recruit internationally.
They do.
I think Raven Gap takes this by 35 points.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to be too close, Pat.
I also have Raven Gap, mostly based on what I saw last year with the Raven Gap Reynolds game. And that point you just brought up, Lewis, stood out to me as well. I don't know. I'd like to see Christ School get the win here. I really do. But, Mike, you and I talked about this a little bit away from the podcast, and that these front games that are scheduled so tough, I worry about that demoralization aspect of it.
It's amazing how Pat can be realistic with anybody but Reynolds. Oh, sorry.
I'm a believer, baby. I am all in. All my chips are on the table, baby.
Carson,
No
what you
secret.
got?
You know, I'm with all three of you guys. I'm going to go Raven Gap here. I do think that you know, Christ Schools, they've got to figure out the quarterback play. I think that, as you know, when you're, you know, their defense is on the field, you know, just most of the first half, you know, they're going to get worn down. They're 11. Mike said it before Lowndes. You know, they're 11. They're 11 can play with, you know, I would say anybody else is 11. You know, their defense, they've got a bunch of Power 5 guys on their defense, but unfortunately, when Caden Jones doesn't come off the field, just the pressure that they are getting put on them is just not. It's not something that I just don't know if you can win with this quarterback right now. When you're throwing pick sixes, when you have more touchdowns to other teams than you do to your team, that's a concern of mine. And I watched one game fully online and one game and had, you know, a little bit of a game in person. But he was not. It wasn't like he was running, Sane Hutt running for his life. I mean, he just wasn't. He wasn't putting the passes where they needed to go. So I think the quarterback is a humongous issue, and I'm not sure that you can win with him in the first half of the season. So that's why I'm going to go Raven Gap.
And watching tape, there is a pocket, and he'll roll out of that pocket into trouble in it anyway. So next up, we have Owen at East Henderson. And listen, when you're playing good football, it's good football. And if you don't have good football, then you're not really playing good football, and that's Owen. So Owen at East Henderson, Lewis, what are you thinking?
I see two teams that haven't got a win yet. I am going to take Owen in this contest. I do think we, as we have in Youth League, are still going to continue to beat East Henderson. I see this being a close, competitive game. Neither side has proven that they can actually execute on offense this year. But Owen's doing some things. They're changing their offensive scheme, everything else this week. I do pick Owen by 3 points.
So East Henderson scored 37 against North Buncombe. So their offense did not execute that game?
They did not.
I have a couple stats real quick. No stats for Owen on the Max Preps. But
That's correct.
They have scored 34 points and given up 113. East Henderson scored 74, but gave up 151. Their quarterback Burns, 35 of 57 for 432 yards, 4 TDs, 2 interceptions. Their running back, 24 rushes for 195 yards and a TD. And they have a receiver, Noel, 4 receptions for 170 yards and a TD. Carson, who are you taking?
I'm going to take East Henderson here based upon what, you know, they had a common opponent already in North Buncombe, and they scored 37 against North Buncombe. You know, I'm not sure on East Henderson's defense, so I do think Owen's going to get some momentum on offense, and I hope that it's
This
a shootout.
could be a close, real
I
close game.
I really think it'll be a close game. My concerns are going to be as far as can Owen stop East Henderson enough?
I figured your problems would be like, can Owen get to the game in time? Will there be too much traffic?
At East Henderson, I don't. The traffic on that
Hendersonville
side of
is terrible.
Hendersonville is terrible. Flat Rock,
26 is awful.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, so yeah, Owen might not be able to make it to the game on time. So therefore, another reason that I'm going to go East Henderson.
I'm also taking East Henderson. Pat, what are you thinking?
I have to coincide a little bit here with what Lewis was saying. Based on what I looked at on the film and whatnot, I do think this is going to be a very close game. And I was very, very close, Lewis, to picking Owen this week. And the only reason why I
That's supposed to
didn't...
make him feel any
No,
better.
no, seriously, but the only reason why I didn't, honestly, is that film that I saw with the North Buncombe East Henderson game. And, you know, what we saw from that... I just can't I couldn't pull the trigger for it, but I'm going to say this. I will not be surprised if Owen pulls the win out of the bag, but I am going East Henderson.
I will be glad to take the W over all of them.
Did Lewis not say last week that he was not going to pick Owen until they proved him?
That is what he said.
That is true.
Now, Lewis, if the quarterback throws the ball in the end zone and the receiver catches it, it's a touchdown.
And that's what Jacob Knighton's going to do all
I
week
hope
this
he does.
Friday.
Show me, baby. Show me.
So next up, I originally had this as my game of the week, but I moved it because I just don't think Irwin's that good. Irwin 1-2 taking on West Henderson. I have a few stats here. I know. Irwin scored 49 points, giving up 66. West Henderson scored 146 and give up 28. Irwin 1-2. West Henderson 3-0. The freshman quarterback at Irwin, Engel, is 31 of 58 for 270 yards and 1 touchdown, 5 interceptions. This is just for 2 games. They have not updated for the 3rd game yet. Their running back, Petty, has rushed for 178 yards and 2 touchdowns. Their best receiver, ironically named Reynolds, is 10 receptions for 104 yards.
He's got to be good.
Got to be good, right? West, are you going to pick Irwin just because they have a kid named Reynolds? Pat?
Why would you assume that?
I don't know. So West Henderson, like I said, 3-0. Their quarterbacks also through 2 games, 13 of 34 for 218 yards, 4 TDs and an interception. Running backs rushed for 219 yards and 6 TDs, so they're going to give it to him down at the end zone. And, of course, Truett Manuel, excellent player. He's caught 11 catches for 201 yards and 2 TDs through 2 games. They haven't updated the 3rd game, like I said. Guys, I'm going West Henderson here. Pat, what are you thinking?
I do think Irwin is going to strike early again in this one like they did last week, but I do think that overall they're going to wear down, and it is going to be a convincing win for West Henderson.
Yeah, I think West Henderson's just going to be too much from the start to finish. I think Truett is going to be a difference maker, everything athlete. I don't think Irwin's going to have anything for him, so I've got West Henderson in this one.
Yeah, Mike, I think, Irwin, just like you, they put a big game on up front, and they can't finish the game. So West Henderson all the way.
Anybody want to, what do you see if West Henderson plays Reynolds? What's that look like?
Reynolds.
No, anybody other than Pat.
Reynolds.
I think Reynolds on the. I think Reynolds is still too. I think Reynolds is too much for him. I'm not sure on the quarterback play from West yet. I know that they've.
He is. Let's see. He was not the starter last year. I know.
No, Lucas Cachilla went to.
Cachilla
went to Gardner Webb, and I think we should look up and have Truett's stats last year. But I think he had 30-something receiving touchdowns last year. So he's not on pace for that this year. If he's got 2 through 2 games, I know they don't have their 3rd ones updated, but Truett, if you can get him the ball, I just don't know. Jude Lyda, great athlete, their quarterback right now, plays baseball. He was their DH, backup second baseman, so he's not very big, to be honest with you. I think he's probably 5'7". So
5'7"?
5'7".
So he's Lewis's height.
I'm 5'8", thank you.
Okay.
Nice.
So my concern would be, I think Reynolds would be too much for him, but we'll have a common opponent. We'll be able to look and see what
That's true.
West is doing against Irwin and then Reynolds.
So now for our games of the week. Pat, everybody hold on to the table. Please sit down. Pat did not choose Reynolds as his game of the week.
I did not.
Pat chose North Buncombe at Brevard.
I did. I chose North Buncombe.
3-0 North Buncombe.
Yes, because
and 1-2 Brevard.
I had to go this way because it's a foregone conclusion that Reynolds is going to win. So it doesn't really need to be the game of the week, in my opinion. So let's go.
So what you got, Pat?
So Brevard is 1-2. They started out 0-2. Pisgah, Knoxville Catholic. Those are the openers for Brevard.
That's a pretty tough first 2 games.
It
Very
is.
tough.
It
Yes.
is. Irwin leads early, like we talked about earlier. Brevard exploited the secondary and a couple of the big passes to take the lead, and they never looked back. It looked like the battle of the line of scrimmage. We talked about that earlier a bit too. Eventually, it was won by Brevard. And North Buncombe is big up front. I don't think that anybody. One of you guys showed me that picture or something that they're calling North Buncombe. What was the NB? I can't remember. Nasty.
Oh, yeah.
Nasty
It
Beast.
was Nasty
Beast.
Beast. That's what
Hell
it is, right?
yes.
So I think that actually is not only matched this week, but it's also I think the athleticism of that front defense and offensive line of Brevard is going to be more than North Buncombe can deal with. North Buncombe obviously 3-0. They got the wins over Owen, East Henderson, and Madison. They've got a little size up front, like we just talked about. I think that the Blackhawks are going into Brevard and they're going to get their first loss.
So you're going Brevard.
Yes.
And I should have shared these before, Pat. Through 2 games, Rash from North Buncombe, 11 of 24 for 184 yards. They have 3 guys who have a good amount of yards rushing. Burnett, as Carson mentioned earlier, 36 rushes for 251 yards. Byers has 15 rushes for 133 yards. And Eubanks has 28 rushes for 173 yards. Bavard, quarterback Kessinger, he's 20 of 32 for 366 yards. This is through 3 games. They updated their stats. Thank you, Bavard. 20 of 32 for 366 yards, 4 TDs, 2 interceptions. The running back Matthews, 41 rushes for 228 yards and a TD. And their wide receiver Griffin, 8 receptions for 226 yards and 3 TDs. Carson, what are you thinking?
I think this will be, a very tough matchup for North Buncombe. I think Brevard. I think the record to start the season, the strength of schedule, as we've already talked about, is going to be very tough. I think the difference is that the offensive line for North Buncombe, I think, is probably going to be a little bit. The game's going to be decided on who gets out. I don't think North Buncombe is a team that can come from behind. So if North Buncombe doesn't get out, then doesn't get out to a lead. But I have faith that they're going to control the clock. They're going to control the line of scrimmage, the first quarter. I think they're going to get out. I think it's going to be a 1-score game.
So you're going North Buncombe?
I'm going to pick North Buncombe here. But I will say if they go down early, then it's tough sledding for North Buncombe. Okay, but I think that they can get the momentum from the beginning. I'm going to go North Buncombe with my pick. Hopefully you guys go the other way so that I can get another game up on you guys. But
Lewis will definitely go the other way, but
boom.
North Buncombe, a total run team, right? They run. Three running backs who run the football.
3 running backs and a quarterback that also runs. I mean, they Lewis Solomon person. It is nothing. It is good old fashioned smash from out. I think that's what Inca's going for. And
so listen, Bavard is the best 1 and 2 team in the area.
I agree.
And I think
No, I don't think you guys.
I agree.
I don't know what you all are smoking.
I think Bavard wins this one as well. They're going to take care of North Buncombe. 3-0. They're going to pick up their first loss. It's tough sledding from here for North Buncombe.
It is.
I'm going Bavard.
It is tough.
I really hope all the stores can rebuild in Weaverville, especially after they get the eye opener that Brevard's going to provide them.
Yeah.
And Brevard by 21.
Wow.
Yeah, I think I've got him by 14.
Okay. 14-21. Mike, what do you have them by?
37.
Okay.
Oh,
Brevard
that's a
by
big one.
37.
I think North Buncombe's in trouble. They played the 369th toughest schedule out of 407.
That's tough. What does this mean, though? Seriously, if North Buncombe competes or hangs, what does this mean as far as their?
So if they come out and beat, let's say they come out and beat,
say
Brevard,
they win.
I think they're second. They're the third. They're the second team in 3A in the MAC conference.
Okay, I agree. Obviously, you got to think they're better than Irwin, right? And I think that already means they're better than Inca. So yeah, I'm with you. Now, don't let me get started on the Reynolds game. It will be 40 or 50 points. So I'm Reynolds is
running clock
for sure.
We'll get there a little later in the year. So next up, we have Lewis with his game of the week. Lewis picked McDowell at Avery. If you see Pat on the sheet, I spelled it right for you, McDowell. So
Thank you.
You wouldn't be mispronunciating it.
McDowell.
So Lewis, what do you got, Avery McDowell?
I think Avery McDowell. Avery struggling with numbers every year. Another small school. McDowell, biggest school in 4A. I really think this comes down to who has the fresh legs in this game. Neither team showed much in the last few years. I think McDowell wins this handily by at least 15.
So Avery knows stats on the old Max Preps.
I don't know if we want to see them.
Much like Owen, they're 1-2. McDowell 0-3. Their quarterback Engel is 31 of 58 through 2 games. They have not updated him yet. 278 yards passing with a TD and 5 interceptions. Oof. He's also, let's see, Perry's the lead running back, 35 rushes for 178 yards and 2 TDs. And I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong school.
Irwin.
So McDowell Marsh is 7 of 17 through 2 games. 7 of 17. He's completed 7 passes in 2 games. 2 TDs and 3 interceptions. He's also the leading rusher, 31 rushes for 128 yards and a TD. And someone else named Marsh, Jackson Marsh, has caught 5 passes for 123 yards. Brother, cousin, I'm not sure, same last name. Carson, who you thinking?
I think McDowell I think they've got to get a win here.
You think they get their first win?
I think they get their first win here. I think that I just don't think Avery's got much, and I don't think McDowell,
They're really good at wrestling.
This isn't wrestling, unfortunately. I think that McDowell. I don't think McDowell has much, but I think Avery has less. So I'm gonna go with McDowell here in a nail biter.
Pat?
I also have it as a nail biter, but I'm going the other way. I think Avery by a touchdown.
Ooh.
I like that.
I just think McDowell probably has a little more than Avery, unfortunately, and I think McDowell gets
A little
the win
more
here.
of a little.
A little more of a little. That's right. There ain't much there. So that was Lewis's game of the week. I changed my game of the week last minute, and I'm going to share a few stats with you. Asheville School playing at ACA here in Swannanoa. Here's the stats for ACA, Carson.
Okay.
The quarterback is they're 1-1.
Javier Rice, correct?
Yes.
I coached him in youth league.
I was
They
going to
beat-
say, did you try and recruit him?
They beat
No.
they beat Thomas Jefferson and lost to Ben Lippin, both who are dead. Their loss was 62-54 was the score. They beat Thomas Jefferson 43-22.
A lot of points.
The Rice is 57 for 83 through 2 games for 877 yards. Lewis, you may not know this, but that's 439 yards a game. He's thrown 10 touchdowns to 3 interceptions. He's also had 13 carries for 73 yards. He's a leading passer and rusher.
Wow.
Wide receiver Dodd has 21 receptions for 416 yards and 3 touchdowns. James has 12 receptions for 288 yards and 5 touchdowns. ACA is going to score some points here.
Yes, they are.
They're playing an Asheville School team that has Ricky Tolbert. They're 0-2. They've lost 2 tough games. Ricky's 37 of 60 for 473 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. That's much of what we saw at Reynolds. Jenkins, the running back, 19 rushes for 81 yards. Hazon Toe from Reynolds, 13 receptions for 191 yards and 2 TDs. And JoJo Akeem, 7 receptions for 98 yards. This could be a shootout, and I worry about Asheville School in a shootout with Ricky Tolbert. But in the end, ACA probably they're on their second year playing high school football. I'm going with Asheville School, but I thought about this for a minute because I really think ACA will put up a ton of points. This could be a high-scoring football game.
So I also thought about this one for a long time. ACA, 30% of their starters should have went to Owen.
Does that make you mad?
Asheville School.
Are you upset about that?
22% of their starters should have went to AC Reynolds. I think I'm going to take Asheville School in this close game. I'm going to pick Asheville School by
So we're
3.
picking Owen over Reynolds.
If he picked Asheville School, that would be Reynolds over Owen.
Yes. So, Pat, what do you got?
I do agree with you, Mike. I think it's going to be a shootout. I think that it's got some talent with Javier at quarterback and his complement.
So
around
he
him
was in the Inca program
when he was
early
very young,
on.
and he was a running back and a linebacker.
And now he's a quarterback.
He's a quarterback. He became a quarterback over there. So I never directly coached him because I was a line coach, but I did get to see him play, and I think that he's a very talented athlete. He was then. I'm sure he still is now. But I am taking the Asheville School over ACA in a shootout, like you said, Mike.
I want to choose ACA because I think it's going to be such a close game. I think ACA can win this in what could be a 60-50 game. What are you thinking, Carson?
I think
You seem to have the private school Pulse last week picking Christ Episcopal or Christ Church Episcopal.
Christ
so.
Church,
Can someone tell me what ACA stands for?
Asheville Christian
And
Academy.
if you think that I'm picking against them, you guys are dead wrong. I'm going with Asheville Christian Academy, and I will be on Christ's side again
I want to
this
go.
Friday.
I'll be honest with you. If I didn't have to go to Raven Gap, I would go to this game. I want to see. I want to see this Rice
talk
kid
about
play.
points. This could be Mahomes versus. This could be Mahomes versus Allen. This is Mahomes versus Burrow. I think this is just a shootout, and I I mean, 800 yards.
877 yards.
877
He's
yards.
averaging
Okay.
439 yards a game.
The question is, seriously, does North Buncombe see 800 passing yards all season?
No, absolutely not.
Okay. That doesn't
Never.
make me feel any better. But yes,
Never.
keep going. What about Inca?
I'd love to see I'd love to see this game. I'd love to go to. If you're in the Swannanoa area, you don't have
And
anything to go to.
please, if you guys get a link to this game, if someone's got a Facebook Live to it, please send this in to Behind the Beard WNC.
I'd love to watch this.
Yes, I need this on my.
I want to go see this kid throw 877 yards in 2 games.
How
10
many,
TDs.
How long will this game go?
Is he available for next week? I'm just wondering. Can he be recruited?
I was gonna say, I mean, Christ School. I might change my picks if they had Javi. If they have this guy throwing the rock for him.
877 yards.
All right.
That's why I switched to my game of the week. So next up we have Carson. Carson, you swooped in and undercut Pat and took the Watauga at Reynolds game. So this could tell us a lot about the conference. Watauga beat Robertson by 1. Robertson had a chance to win at the end and blew it. So what are you thinking? Are you thinking Reynolds?
So shout out Pat for letting me take his team for game of the week.
Let me share just a few stats before
Please,
you give your pick.
please do.
So Watauga, the quarterback, Green, 14 of 22. This is just through 2 games for 304 yards and 3 TDs. Watauga, running team, obviously. Grider, 40 rushes for 213 yards and 4 TDs. Pryor, their best receiver, 7 receptions for 170 yards and 2 TDs. Reynolds, they have through 3 games. Quarterback Craig, 43 of 69 for 419 yards. ACA's quarterback has more than that in 1 game. For 5 TDs and 2 interceptions. The running back Patterson, who I guess is replacing Guest,
Right now, yes, that's true.
24 rushes, 102 yards, and 1 TD through 3 games. They have had a lot of people carry the football. And then Ty Johnson, the Irwin transfer, the wide receiver, 13 catches, 186 yards, and 2 TDs. Carson, what are you thinking? You thinking this is where Watauga wins? They get Reynolds is 1-3?
So I'm gonna go with my pick for this game is gonna be W. Carson because I'm picking AC Reynolds here for the win. Pat just almost jumped over the table to give me a hug. I think this was a game that after last week, I think Reynolds does have as much confidence as you can get off of a loss. I think that Reynolds gets it rolling right now. I think that the pressure, as far as pressure, I think that Reynolds doesn't have much pressure on themselves this game. I think that they will be able to. I think their coaches are going to be able to prepare them enough. It's a one-trick pony with Watauga's offense. So
They're going to run.
So they're going to run the ball. So I think Coach Craig does have something dialed up for them. But I do think that Reynolds will show that they will be the favorite in the Robertson game. I think Reynolds wins by more than 1 point here. But I've got Reynolds. Thank you, Pat, for letting me take this. I truly hand up. I thought it was going to be off. I thought it was going to be off of a. I thought it was going to be more of a get right game off of a bigger loss than what Reynolds is coming off of. But I still had this circle that Reynolds was going to come. And this was going to be their get-right game after East Forsyth. But them playing East Forsyth so close makes me even stronger on Reynolds here.
Go ahead, Lewis. What are you thinking?
Lewis, talk to me.
As much as Coach Craig is the greatest coach on any staff in any school in Western North Carolina,
Wow,
as we've
yes.
talked about
Right?
on this show,
Exactly.
I think
Shower the love down. It's okay, Lewis. It's good.
And they did. I mean, they did stand up this last game and really prove themselves. I think Watauga is going to show how thin Reynolds is on defense, and Watauga is going to win this by at least 7 points.
Let's not forget, Watauga's quarterback came on the high school OT. They said, what are you looking forward to most this year? What did the quarterback say, Carson?
AC
The Reynolds game.
AC Reynolds game. Yep.
Reynolds.
Reynolds.
So Watauga's fired up for this game. They're excited for this game.
Don't bet against Reynolds.
So, Pat, you're taking Watauga.
Hold on a minute.
No.
Hold on a minute. I love it when you doubt us. Isn't that what someone said on the Instagram?
I believe that is
My
what,
question
what
is
a
for
running back
Pat
said.
right here, right now, on live, on air. Am I going to get some W love?
I can't speak for the
W
student
for
body.
Carson.
Am I going to get? Is anybody going to say W Carson?
They should, because you're on Team Pat this week, which I'm
on
a big
Team
fan.
Pat.
of.
I'm Team
Yes.
Pat now.
Team Reynolds.
This is
right?
Team-
This is good.
Okay. All righty.
You're going to see a lot more connections with Wesley Rumbo and Ty Johnson this week. Hayden Craig is getting dialed in with those two guys. The Swiss Army knife of Christian Lewis is versatile in so many different areas and stuff. Watauga is not going to be able to prepare for what's coming, and it's going to be an exciting show.
Reynolds
at RL Dalton
athletes
Stadium.
on the outside is going to be the difference maker, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think so as well. I'm also taking Reynolds. I think Reynolds wins by 2 or 3 touchdowns here.
Okay.
I'll
It's
take
gonna
it.
happen.
We all just picked up a game on Lewis.
Right? W from Mike. It's going to be W Mike, W Carson, W Pat.
Let's go.
Let's do it.
I'm
Let's
guessing
go.
it will still just be W Pat.
No, it will definitely just
We'll
be
get
W
a big
Pat.
L out for Lewis. And put that up there. A big picture of Lewis and an L above it. That'd be great.
So some good games this week. I'll be honest with you, and like I mentioned before, the one I'm looking forward to the most, ACA, Asheville School.
Give me the final score for that game, Mike.
I'm thinking ACA 52, Asheville School 62.
Wow.
We've got 100 points.
I think they score more than 100 points this week.
The over-under Vegas line is set at 100. We're hitting the
100.
over. Wow.
So,
All righty.
so now that we've done our picks for this week, as the season moves forward, you think there's going to be more variety in picks, Lewis, or as the MAC conference goes on, or less?
Well, there's more conferences other than the MAC, but I think we will tend to choose the same teams over and over.
You think so? With Inca and North Buncombe, Irwin,
I'm
they're
gonna
all about
have
the
to. I'm
same.
gonna have to lean with Lewis here. So I'm gonna propose. I think we should throw a spread in. Here or there just to get some variety. I think like North Buncombe, when North Buncombe plays, Reynolds, I think the spread should be 40 points, and I'll have Reynolds covering that spread.
Well,
But
I really think after North Buncombe Brevard this week, I think that North Buncombe won't be talked about highly regarded as, other teams.
no, I don't think so either. And they still dog walked Owen, so it's just tough. That it's just tough. That,
Wow.
I agree 100% with you, Lewis, and that makes it even more tough. For other teams around the mountains.
I don't think the Owen community is a big fan of yours, Carson.
I had them running the table on the first preview.
we were ready for 7-3.
I was ready
Owen.
for 7-3 Owen, and I
Indeed.
just love what Coach Gibson did in the sideline when I was sitting on the Owen side at Inca. And Lewis can say that I high-fived him when they made a big play because I want my friend Lewis to be happy. And
Lewis is not a happy person.
No,
no,
he's generally not.
no, but he's a proud American.
What do you think, Pat? You think we all kind of come together when the MAC conference starts, or no?
No, because the four of us really can't agree on much of anything, let alone football. So I think there is going to be some variety, especially outside of the Reynolds games. I think we'll all be consistently accurate as long as you're picking with me on the Reynolds game. Outside of that, there's going to be some variety.
Well, we'll see. We'll
Sounds
see.
good.
So does the MAC conference start next week? Is that correct?
Next week, I
Not
believe.
that, yeah, a week from Friday. So we're being good. So, gentlemen, we now have to move to the question of the day.
What
and,
is it?
And in the theme of the Rocky-like fight back that Reynolds put on display this week, it was
Good
so
Lord.
awesome. I could hear the eye of the tiger in the back of my head.
Dun-dun-dun,
Right? Yeah.
dun-dun-dun.
We should get that theme music out and play it every week.
We don't even
Lewis.
have a marching band or cheerleaders.
Yeah, we can get that theme music and just go with it every time. That'd be awesome. So, who was your favorite Rocky villain, and what was your favorite Rocky movie?
Carson, are you old enough to have seen all the Rocky movies? Have you seen any of the Rocky movies?
I've not seen all of the Rocky movies.
Have
You're not an American.
Have you seen the very first one?
Yeah, I believe. Yes, I've seen the very first one. And I'm
Pat was already in college when that one came out.
I'm
was
too
not. That was
ignorant on this. I'm gonna
1977.
let Lewis and Mike speak on it. I don't know enough about Rocky.
I would say my favorite is Rocky versus Drago.
So that was 4.
The Russian.
It was your favorite, and you
Yeah.
had to Google it.
Yeah. So
What the hell?
I couldn't remember his name.
Ivan Drago.
But the imagery of United States versus Russia and how we're going to put you down in the end, I love it.
Okay. Speaking of Rocky, does anybody know DeAndre Swift, running back for the Detroit
Detroit,
Lions.
yeah.
He's now with the Eagles, I believe, but played at Georgia. He's from Philadelphia, and his commitment video to Georgia was a Rocky tribute. So that's about my extent of Rocky knowledge.
I don't know if you remember the very beginning of that movie, but Apollo Creed dies to the Russian
Indeed, yeah.
Drago.
Yes.
Creed's a good series. Have y'all seen that?
Creed.
I have,
My son's
yeah.
a big
Creed's
fan.
your son's a big fan. Are
of
you a big
Creed.
fan?
I think I've seen one of the Creed movies.
Okay.
That's it.
So the very first one with Rocky and Adrian. That's my favorite for sure.
Yeah. So, but what about your villain?
My favorite villain has got to be Apollo Creed. When he was the villain early on, as opposed to the hero when he dies, I like him better as a villain.
Mike, you and I are thinking the same here. Definitely on the best Rocky movie of all time. The original Rocky is just the best. The villain, I kept going back and forth because I was thinking the same thing with the Apollo Creed thing, because all that mouth that was going on and how he could take on the world.
It's like he played for Chambers.
Yeah, and he set up Rocky because Rocky's this no-name boxer, but he has to get a fight in Philadelphia because the other guy cancels. And he's like, I'm going to walk all this guy. And it was just a great movie. But my all-time greatest villain, I still have to go with Clubber Lang.
Mr. T.
I mean, come on. He had the mohawk, the whole thing, and not enough
Come
tea
on,
for
fool.
me, right? I mean, you got to love Clubber Lang.
I do love Clubber Lang. What are you thinking, Carson? Anything?
I don't know.
You've seen the
Carson's
Creed
only-
movies.
He's only
Pick a Creed
16
movie.
years old.
Pick a Creed movie.
Yeah, that's in the same genre. I mean, it's an extension of Rocky.
I think the Creed movies are great.
Jesus.
I'm just-
Okay.
Sorry,
I forget we're dealing with a teenager.
No, what do you expect from a Gen X guy?
I'm a Gen Xer. He's an iGen. He's a millennial.
Gen Z?
I think I'm millennial, right?
You're millennial.
I'm millennial.
I'm Gen
Even
X.
worse.
You don't even know what I am.
Nobody does.
I think you're millennial.
I am not a millennial.
What are you?
86.
You were born 86, so you're not Gen Xer.
You're
You gotta be
9
millennial.
years older than me. That's not a lot.
It's enough, trust me.
It's enough.
It might be the area.
I didn't grow up in the valley.
He's a
right.
Valley guy.
Yeah, for sure. I grew up in the View.
He used to read the Sweet Valley High books.
I grew up in the big town Fairview.
You guys all need to chime in on the social media with your favorite Rocky villain and favorite Rocky movie, as well as telling Lewis just how terrible he is at this whole picking schools thing.
Pat.
Please
Yeah.
like, follow, subscribe, unsubscribe, subscribe again. Behind the Beard WNC. We're on Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, Facebook. Lewis got us hooked up on YouTube as well. So
And Instagram.
and Instagram. A lot of
where
different-
everybody loves Pat.
Right.
Everybody loves Pat on Instagram.
And I don't even know how to open Instagram.
We
so
love the
awesome.
interaction. We love the messages. Thank you guys for everything.
Listen, please chime in. Give us your picks. Give us your thoughts. Tell us how dumb Carson is. It's fine. We love it.
I love traffic, baby.
Landon does a great job. I mean, Carson does a great job doing his picks.
And thanks to the Bandettes, we got to remember those guys.
We
Yes,
love the
thank you.
Bandettes. and
Hey,
their
hold
song.
on. I'm going to say one thing.
Did you
Don't
guys
worry
notice-
about the horse being blind. You just load the wagon, boys.
Did y'all notice Carson shaved his beard this week? It's
He
ridiculous.
did. What is that? Did
your-
your wife complain?
Wait, girlfriend. Did your girlfriend make you shave your beard?
Just load the wagon.
Guys, thank you for joining us this week. We look forward to talking to you next week. And Pat,
That's it. Thank you all for tuning in. Until next week and the next iteration.
There's nothing like a man with a good-looking beard. There's nothing